What's up to my fellow average fantasy bozos? We are back at it again. Your favorite fantasy podcast, Loose Ends, a fantasy podcast for average fantasy players ourselves by, you guessed it again, average fantasy players ourselves. I am your host, Blake, or better known as our reigning, undisputed, drunken draft Dynasty League champion. And I am beyond excited to welcome y'all to the one and only podcast where the stats tower as high as our co-hosts and the fantasy insights are as deep as a Steelers playoff drought. My guy, JJ.
Hey, what's going on, baby?
Look, man, y'all don't understand. This is a man who's so good at crunching numbers, we're pretty sure he eats spreadsheets for breakfast, all right? Standing at basically ogre height, he's the only guy we know who can block out the sun and still find a way to shine a light on the most obscure fantasy stats. What I'm saying is, look, they say go big or go home, but JJ just decided to do both. And yes, he's a Steelers fan, but nobody's perfect. So buckle up, because you're about to get schooled in fantasy by a guy who uses a top shelf for his trophies, and the rest of us need a ladder just to give this man a high five. Without further ado, Joey, hit that motherfucking intro. All right, let's pop into it. JJ, kick us off. What are we doing today?
All right, baby. Today, we taking it to the table.
To the table.
To the
He's
table.
taking it to the table.
However you want to take that, the trade table, the negotiating table, we going to talk about trades today, baby. One of our favorite things.
Oh, absolutely. So we're going to talk about some trade philosophies, some how and whys, some why we do the things that we do, some trades that we made in the offseason, specific targets that we were going after as far as players in the offseason. And I mean, more than that, we're going to talk about what it is to trade within a dynasty league. So for me specifically, my philosophy, I like to trade more rather than less. I mean, if you didn't get into dynasty to be playing dynasty all year round, then why are you not in a redraft league, right? For me, I send trades early and often. Trading to me is the most exciting portion of dynasty football, and it is my favorite thing in the world to wake up to trade requests in my inbox. So that's definitely how I see these trades.
I love that. I think that is absolutely true of yourself. For me, personally, when I'm thinking of any trade, first thing that I do is look at what my needs are. I kind of want to be what I call practicing like team awareness, where I'm like checking my roster every day. I'm looking at the news. I'm looking at everything coming out of OTAs. Doesn't matter. I want to know what's going on, especially if I've got a player that's coming off an injury. I want to know like where are they at in their recovery process? How is it going? How are they feeling?
And that's one thing that you and I had talked about a lot in the offseason was the ability to make trades to better your team, but also to, play defensively, right? You're not trading with one person the entire offseason because it's really only bolstering two of you guys back and forth, and it gets monotonous after a while.
Right. Our full intention is to improve our team, right? We're not really out there to are trying to keep other people from, getting players or anything like that. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is playing defense is knowing what your league mates have on their roster, right? Knowing that, okay, I see that they have this trade going on. Okay, they just traded for this player. I think that I've got to make a move now if I want to compete. That's exactly where I'm at in my league or our league currently. So trying to figure that out.
Absolutely. It's a tricky situation, especially when you're trying to fight for a championship. If you're in a rebuild status, I mean, that changes the game of trading for you and I specifically. The trades we'll be talking about today, you and I are both viable championship teams. So we're kind of in that championship stage. If you are listening in right now and you're looking for a rebuild type episode, we will do that in a future episode. Probably, what are we looking at? Episode 5 or 6 coming out here in a week or two. You'll
Sounds about
see
right.
we'll do a rebuild episode as well for those guys that are, trying to get that draft capital and trying to get some of these younger players to come out and be successful. But without further ado, Jesse, I believe we have to set the table. Is that right?
Set the table, baby.
Napkin up, dinner forks. I was saying, a little pop out. Look, we out
We
here
ready to eat.
That's it. We eating. So let's get it set up. So I want to talk about my specific first trade. So there are 3 major trades that I made this offseason that I really want to talk about. Number one for me was my number one target in the offseason, which I thought was completely off limits, was Bijan Robinson, right? I had a roster with some depth to it, and I wanted to trade a couple of pieces away. I was able to snag Bijan, and I traded away A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert, and then the 205 from the 2024 draft, which ended up being A.D. Mitchell. So just my own thoughts on it. Bijan is top 3 running back fantasy right now ranked.
Arguably one.
Arguably RB1.
Yeah.
Now we're getting rid of an arguably top 3 wide receiver dynasty in A.J. Brown. We got rid of Dallas Goedert, who, in my opinion, hasn't cracked the top 10 in tight ends. Not only that, for me, when I saw the trade, I said, hey, A.J. Brown and Dallas Goedert are both playing on the same team. So having them both on a roster, not saying it's detrimental, but it's tough, always having to watch one game to see 2 guys and hoping they both perform in the same game. And then the 205, to me, doing our draft analysis, I wasn't exactly sure who was going to fall to that 205. I didn't really like any of that mid-round, second round for me specifically to my roster. I would rather have the big name to bolster my running back room. So I ended up going to get Bijan. It worked out. I'm happy about it. What are your thoughts, JJ?
I think that was a trade target for everyone in this league and probably should be. But like you said, I also thought he was untouchable, but this trade is exactly what it would take to get Bijan. I think that is a great trade on both sides. I think that it worked. It's going to work out both for you in the long run. And I say that because I look at both of your teams, and especially yours, Blake. You got a lot of depth at receiver. I think you gave up. You gave up a really solid receiver in AJ Brown, right? He put up some big numbers for you last year. Dallas Goedert, kind of getting older, aging out. They're both kind of. AJ's not that old. Where's he at? 26.
AJ's 26, yes.
That's right. Okay. So, you're getting a good asset for another. He just got a new contract for 3 more years, right? That was the extension. Yeah.
Dallas Goedert is 29, but 30 now, I believe.
Yeah. And I think that he is still the tight end 1 in that offense. So, yeah, I think it was a great trade. And I'm excited to see what Adonai Mitchell becomes. So
I think Adonai Mitchell will be the topper on that trade. If he shows out and hits 200, 210 points this season, then I think it's really a back and forth wash. Now, I don't know what A.J. Brown's going to do this year. I was very high on him last year. This year, I just don't know. We saw the fall off a little bit. Some animosity in that locker room, kind of back and forth, some diva moments, which we love to see a diva in a wide receiver, someone who wants the rock in their hands. So hopefully they compromise with him and they start getting him some more touches.
So what you said to me was really interesting. You said around 200 to 210
roughly
in fantasy points. So I'm looking at Garrett Wilson's production for full PPR in his rookie year when he won Rookie of the Year. 215.7 points. So
210 is solid spot.
Yeah. If we're talking those kinds of numbers, we're looking at a possible Rookie of the Year, no?
Unfortunately, for that class that year, your big names, Garrett Wilson, JSN, Chris Olave, they all went to not great landing spots. So I don't think we saw a crazy outbreak. There was no quarterback that really came out of that class. We talked about it in the last episode, Kenny Pickett and Malik Willis. So there wasn't really surplus of offensive players to really take it. I think Garrett Wilson, yes, great player, got the rookie of the year. Don't think he had a lot of competition, so that's tough to see as well. So we'll see where this class, which has been argued to be one of the top receiving classes in a long time, we'll see what the offensive weapons out of this class can do.
And that's so crazy to me because it's following a season where we saw a rookie break all of the rookie records in Puka Nacua.
Puka Nacua, and then you have Sam Laporta, tight end 1, as a rookie, which is unheard of.
It's so exciting to see this. Like, it just feels like it's getting better
Jahmyr
and better.
Gibbs, Bijan, like guys that are coming out that are rookies and are just phenoms, and we love
it. It has me so excited for this entire class. Okay, sorry, we got a little off track, but
we love this game. All right, let's move it on. Let's move.
We're still at the table.
We're still at the table. Let's bring that second course out.
Yeah. So for our second course, I was really targeting Michael Pittman in the offseason because I am the Anthony Richardson owner in our league. And I'm all in on Anthony Richardson. I absolutely love him. I think he is going to be a breakout this year. That's my hope anyway. Right? I think that's what's going to happen. No, I've already bought into it. I went and traded for Michael Pittman, and what I gave up to get him, well, in addition to Michael Pittman, I also received the 202, and I believe it was the 204? 204 or 205. I traded away Darren Waller, Cooper Kupp, Jackson Smith and Jigba, and my 2024 first, which was the 106, which turned into Jonathan Brooks. So if we look at the picks that I had and what they turned into, I guess I got Michael Pittman and I believe it was Keon Coleman. And Xavier Legette.
Perfect. 206.
Mommy, I love this. I got 2 awesome rookies I'm really excited about. Michael Pittman, I'm very excited about. Finishes a wide receiver 13 in full PPR and sleeper last year. Number 35 overall. And I am so excited to see he scored 250 points. He's missed, looks like 1 game in the last 2 seasons, but he's been in since 2020.
Michael Pittman has been Mr. Consistent. He has not had a major breakout season, but he reminds me so much of T. Higgins in the respect that they're going to be wide receiver 22 to 18, almost guaranteed. Now, I think with Michael Pittman's situation, getting Anthony Richardson back, it'll be exciting to see that next step. Now, we've talked about it a little bit. Jonathan Taylor is healthy. Getting A.D. Mitchell over there now, you have Josh Downs over there, so it'll be interesting to see how that spread kind of plays out as we've seen these weapon offenses kind of do their thing. But we saw it last year, San Francisco. We've seen it with Philadelphia. We've seen it with the Chiefs. Guys that they spread the ball around and can still find success in numerous players. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
And I just love the Shane Steichen offense. I think he's going to spread the ball out. It's going to look a lot similar to like the Chiefs and the Eagles. So I'm really excited for that. And he only had 4 touchdowns last year. I think that's going to change. I think he's going to have hopefully at least 6. I mean, he had 6 in 2021. So
I think
not
they'll
like
be in the red zone a little bit more than they're used to.
Right. I'm just not sure where they're going to go to in the red zone. I feel like it will be Jonathan Taylor. Anthony Richardson will be running the ball a lot. So it's kind of – I think Michael Pittman's going to get his touchdowns more on the deep ball, long plays, where he's going on streaks down the field and catching it for like 60 yards.
That is one thing that I would like to touch on. We always talk about some pros and cons, but the con side of that is we do see these running quarterback teams. I mean, even teams like the Bills with Josh Allen, he does touchdown monger in the red zone. Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, guys like that will take touchdown plays and touchdown points away from these receivers and even some of these running backs in the red zone. So that is something that we want to keep an eye on. And it'd be interesting to see how that plays out with Anthony Richardson to see if there are, TD hoarding in the red zone because he is a big physical running quarterback. So I'm loving that from them. I think they're going to be a closet team to step out, kind of like we saw with Houston. We saw Detroit emerge onto the scene so crazily. I'm excited to see kind of what they do going forward.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. So yeah, I mean, for this trade, just to wrap it up, on my side, I'm really happy with that. I could talk all day about Xavier Leggett and Keon Coleman, but I'm not going to do that. I just wanted to touch really quickly. Darren Waller, other than releasing a music video, I don't think he's doing shit this year. And I just want to
Let's
say,
go ahead. Clown of the week. I want to go ahead and throw Darren Waller's name on there. JoJo, go ahead and hit me with my visual for that. There, Darren Waller. Let's throw him on here. Clown of the week. That video was crazy, and we have yet to see any positive news coming from that man. So we'll see.
Yeah, really, still not sure if he's going to retire or not. Maybe he comes back and has a season of his life, then I'll really cry. But Cooper Kupp also kind of in the same boat, right? Didn't have a great season last season, and I'm not willing to wait and find out. Maybe he does have another breakout, but I think it's Puka's time to shine. And then Jackson Smith and Jigba, I love the talent. I don't think I have been vocal enough about how much I actually really love JSN and loved him when I was scouting him out of college. But unfortunately, his landing spot is just not good enough for me. I cannot sit on that and wait. Which I think, like, we could see him emerge this year, but I think if that does happen, I will feel a little bit differently about this trade. And then the 106, I didn't really like that pick. And we looked at it historically with the average draft position and where players fell in the previous drafts. Yeah, the 106 wasn't a great pick, so I kind of wanted to get away from that. And I wanted to get into the second round really badly, so it worked out really well.
Worked out well, and the players that did fall to you in the second round were great picks. Getting Trey Benson right after that, the fact that he fell there. You got Xavier Leggett, which, we'll go ahead and throw some footage up of Xavier Leggett. He's a monster.
Yeah.
I think the capital that you got from it, not only did you bolster for a championship run this year, you also helped the future going forward. So I think that's great. But
Let me ask you.
Go ahead.
Before we move on, I just want to ask you one thing. Do you think, because after this trade, I didn't even realize that D-Judge had the 110. So he had his 2024 first, but the last pick in the first round. I didn't realize he had that. Do you think I could have gotten that with this deal, or was this deal good where it was at?
I thought the deal was already great for you. I don't know if he would have gotten rid of the 110. I'm very thankful that he didn't, because I got the 110 out of it.
Yeah.
When I went and made my trade, which we will discuss here next. Perfect. And that is a fantastic transition as we move into the third course. That third course for me, I am bringing Kyler Murray and Nico Collins. These were two major targets that I had this offseason. They were number 3 and number 4 on my list of trade targets. I also got the 110 out of this deal. So the trade that I ended up making, I traded away Justin Herbert, Chris Olave, and Keaton Mitchell, which, if you are a trade guru or a trade Nazi, you will not like that trade. However, y'all can clip this next. I do not believe in Justin Herbert. I just don't. The Saints, yes, Chris Olave is a monster. I just don't see the quarterback situation getting healthy over there. I love CJ Stroud. They just paid Nico Collins. They obviously love him the same way I do. I think he's going to be a monster. I wanted to go get him. Kyler Murray was a buy low target for me because of injury history and the way that the Cardinals have struggled. But if you look at Kyler Murray historically, fantasy-wise, he's a running quarterback, and the fact that they don't have, a plethora of weapons over there, they're going to need to utilize him running the ball. He's going to do it. There is games where he's rushed the ball 10, 12 times, and I love that out of a quarterback, especially in a super flex. That's why I wanted to go get Kyler Murray and Nico Collins. Now, it was an added cherry on top for me that I got the 110, but again, we're super flex, and I gave up Justin Herbert, who a lot would argue is a top 5 quarterback, and Chris Olave, who again people would argue is a top 10, top 8 dynasty wide receiver. So makes it tough. Keaton Mitchell. Keaton Mitchell's a monster. I just don't know what they're going to do with that backfield over there in Baltimore now that Derrick Henry's there. So we'll see.
He also is coming off of an ACL injury, isn't it?
Which we did the analysis deep dive. Go ahead and watch part 1 of last episode. ACL injuries for running backs coming back that next year is historically not it, and I just don't need that on my bench right now.
Right. So I think that this actually is a great trade to talk about because I am one of those fantasy players that's been burned by Kyler Murray so many times. However, thinking of that, I still prefer Kyler Murray now over Justin Herbert. So I think that this trade really worked out for you well.
I would like to touch on that a little bit. So,
yeah,
for the people, how many times has a player burned you until you traded them away?
Oh, God. So many times. I don't know, so many times. I think I can remember one instance when I traded Kyle Pitts to you.
Ooh, what about CeeDee Lamb?
Oh, I want it back so bad.
We made a beautiful trade for a CeeDee Lamb, and
honestly, that might be another take it to the table episode. I would love to really dig deep into that.
We'll have to throw that one down there. We'll do some past take it to the tables from the previous season to show how things can kind of turn around. I mean, you made some amazing trades that took you from 0 to hero, overnight, basically in one season.
I went from 2-12 to 9-5.
9-5, finishing 3rd in the league.
I think I finished 5th.
Oh, 5th. Must have been
6th. I finished 6th.
End of the season.
Yeah. Regular season I was 3rd.
Regular season is what I was talking about.
In record and points for. I also had the lowest points against, so kind of got lucky with the schedule. But yeah, I did. I was able to turn it around, and it's because of the trades that we're talking about today. And I just wanted to touch on really quick. Nico Collins, I think, is absolutely in the top 10. I am not brave enough to put Justin Herbert even in the top 12 quarterbacks.
Oof.
I don't think he's going to do it. I am with you. I don't know if you're as much on my side as I am. I don't know. I'm just very adamant about him not having a great season. I just don't think he has the receivers there. And that offense isn't it's not going to be an air raid offense.
I agree. I think they're going to pound the ball on the ground. I think that offense is going to shift from what we see. They believe in his arm, but
I want the running backs from the Chargers because that's I think where the fantasy points are going to come from. Well, I don't think they're going to come from. Yeah, exactly. I do. So I'm kind of biased, but I don't think they're going to come from Justin Herbert. I don't think they're going to come from the receivers. I mean, maybe Ladd, but I don't see it. We've already talked about that.
We are still in our entree phase. JJ, if you want to go ahead and just talk about the second course, you specifically, our 4th course of the show, but your second course that you're bringing to the table.
Okay, so this evening for the 4th course, I was looking at the special this offseason, which I thought was Isaiah Pacheco, because I thought maybe I could get him for kind of a lower price. And this was prior to our rookie draft, so I had quite a bit of trade capital still. Draft capital with draft picks. So I sent Kendre Miller, my 2024 second round pick, which was, I believe, the 203. 2026 second, which I believe would be an early second, and then 2026 4th round. I am a really big fan of Isaiah Pacheco, and as much as I loved the prospect of Kendre Miller and was really excited for him, I mean, I think I traded you for him last year. at some point, but I was really hoping to hold on to him. However, I saw the prospect of getting Isaiah Pacheco as a great opportunity for me to bolster my running back room, which I really, really needed. We all need, right? Everybody's got to go and try to find those running backs. It's really hard to get a good running back in Dynasty. So that's why I drafted a bunch this year, because I'm trying to hit on them, right? But the fourth round pick, which I believe turned into the 401, which was Kamani Vidal, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I got two running backs out of this deal for which I think I ended up with team 7, the 207 back from Monty in another trade, but I think he's got two 2026 picks in Kendre, and I don't know how you feel about Kendre, but I hope that it helps him because he needs a little bit of help in his running back room. I mean, he's got the youth there, but he's got to get maybe a little bit more solid point scoring running backs.
Let me tell you how I feel about Kendre. I couldn't offload him fast enough.
Really?
I was out when I drafted him based on best available. I even kind of went early on him, which I think helped in our league, kind of gave a name to him a little bit. People were very high on him. After when I saw him run in the NFL, I'm out on Kendre Miller. I just don't think he's going to be super viable and super successful. They don't really utilize the running back out of the backfield aside from Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara had another amazing season last year, even with missing games. I mean, he finished RB6, I believe. I just don't see him being viable anytime soon. And again, if we're in championship runs, we're not rebuilding. That's just not where we're at building our roster. I think it's a great move for Montavious because he is in a rebuild status. I mean, he is the rebuild, which we can touch on, when we do our rebuild episode, because he is Mr. Rebuild. And I don't see Kendre being viable. Now, getting the picks that you did, again, they turned into two running backs. Plus, if we're talking the 207 from there, you also picked up Trey Benson. Everyone wants to bolster that running back room. Running backs just don't last as long as we wish they would in comparison to tight ends or quarterbacks or receivers. So you always want to be building in that running back room if you're trying to have a complete roster. I think it's a great move. Isaiah Pacheco, what do they say? He runs like he's angry at the ground. I mean, that man.
I love it.
He runs so hard, and he's in
and he can catch the ball too.
He's in an offense that they want to utilize him, right? Mm-hmm. They clearly have shown that they want to utilize him, especially late in the game. They'll hand him the rock to just run out the clock, and he's shown that he can get that done. So he's going to get touches, and I love that. I think it was a great trade for you. He was a buy low target, kind of similar to Kyler, and I think you went and did what you needed to do to bolster that running back room. I loved it.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, so we're going to move on to dessert here. The reason I say dessert is because we're in our final course of the evening for each one of us. For me specifically, my number one target this offseason that was available was Josh Jacobs. I love Josh Jacobs. I love the way he runs. He catches the ball out of the backfield. He does it all. Now, I went and got Josh Jacobs before the trade. Same way I traded away Joe Mixon and Dontavian Wicks. Again, I traded away Joe Mixon when he was with Cincinnati. So this is an early example, and I kind of want to talk about that a little bit. I am a believer in trading early and often for a couple of reasons. A lot of teams that you will run across in your league will say, well, I want to see where the landing spots are for draft picks, or well, I just kind of want to see what happens in the off-season trades. And we watch teams fall apart in the offseason. Guys will go, I want to see what's going to happen. And then they watch these trades happen, or they watch guys get dropped as free agents and moved around, or free agents decide not to sign and get moved to other places and get re-signed. And then they go, oh, well, I don't like where he went. Now I'm going to try and trade him away. Well, you just lost an immense value. I try to go get guys before they move, such as Josh Jacobs. I assume wherever he was going to go was going to be great. And it could have been horrible. Could have gone to a horrible landing spot. I got very lucky. He ended up going to Green Bay. Loved that move. Same thing. I traded away Zamir White with the anticipation that they were going to draft another running back, and they didn't. That's one of those trades that could turn around and bite me. Same thing with Joe Mixon. I like the backfield that is in Cincy. He ended up going to Houston, a great landing spot for him. Now, do I think the trade is still pretty straightforward? I don't need to touch on Dontavian Wicks. I talk about him more than enough and how much I love him. But we don't know what's going to happen with that Green Bay offense. I just think that's my takeaway from this trade specifically is I trade early and often, and that's just one of the things that I want to convey, so that way we can get ahead of things, because that's where guys can make or break. If you can get somebody before they go to a better landing spot, you just bolster your team so much better. What are your thoughts on this?
I absolutely love that piece. I think that timing is so important. And when you can get in on a situation like this where it's high risk, high reward, and you can get in at the right time, it feels great when it hits, right? I think that it worked out really great for actually both parties in this trade because Joe Mixon kind of fell into the same thing, right? He got traded, but he ended up going from the Bengals to the Texans, and I think that is just unbelievable.
I want to touch on that one more time because a lot of people, when that trade in our league had gone through, people had said, well, Joe Mixon's probably going to get cut, or we don't even, they're not going to re-sign him. Joe Mixon's done. All these things that came out. So people were a little upset about the trade. Then when he went to Houston, that script kind of flipped after. Everyone went, oh, well, this trade's actually pretty good. And that's the beautiful thing about trading early and often is when you trade early, you're getting into a situation that could potentially be great for you. It might not look good in the beginning, but similar to the trades you and I just talked about. I mean, if Justin Herbert is a QB12 this year, that trade is money.
Yeah,
if
absolutely.
he comes out as QB2, I look like, a straight bozo. That's kind of where we're at right now. You trade early and often and figure it out.
Absolutely.
Let's move into our final course for the evening. We're going to jump into the dessert piece. We're talking tiramisu. JJ, go ahead and hit us with that last dessert piece.
This shit is so good, it will make you cry. It made me cry. I gave up my baby, and I didn't think I had it in me to do it, actually. I ended up trading away Jahmyr Gibbs.
Ouch. My soul.
And the 210. No? I think it was to 204? It might have been the 202. Anyway, in return, I got George Pickens, Kenneth Walker, and my own 2025 first-round pick. So let me just talk about Gibbs. Right? Gibbs was incredible last season, his rookie season.
Jahmyr Gibbs is a dog. DAWG, woof, dog.
Whoa. Yeah. He finished as running back 10. He had 242 fantasy points last season. This guy is also in, I believe, the top 3 running back for Dynasty. So I hate to do that, right? We talked about bolstering your running back room, and this is not bolstering your running back room. I took a step down from my running back room to go and get George Pickens, who I believe has the potential to be a top 12 wide receiver. I really do feel that way. I want to see that for him, especially with Deontay Johnson leaving and the amount of targets and the target share that is now available to him. I think that and in this new offense with a new quarterback room, there's a lot of positivity there. I'm going to go with that positivity. Plus, I'm wearing this fucking jersey. I love this fucking kid. So I've traded for him several times in this league already and traded him away. This is the best, I think, situation he has had, and it's his 3rd season. I believe he only needs 1,766 yards. Might be less than that. I think it's less than that. It's like 1,300 to break the record for, I don't know, the franchise record for the Steelers. It's like receivers in their first 3 years. I think it belongs to Mike Wallace right now with 3,700. I should have had these stats ready to go.
Joey, go ahead and throw those stats up there for us.
But George Pickens, I think, is in a great position. His value to me is why I wanted to do that trade. And I'm giving up a top 10 running back. I went and got Kenneth Walker. who I believe, I know he finishes a running back 19, and he's now under a new offensive coordinator, a whole new regime and coaching there.
We'll see what happens with it. Even if he comes out in top 15, if he's RB 15, and you also get George Pickens, who's a WR 10. I think he could go as high as WR 8, WR 7, maybe at its peak, depending on how that offense looks.
Yeah.
Depending on quarterback play, I think he could be up into that WR 8, 7 range. But even if he's WR 12 with an RB 15, you did a classic, let's trade down to get multiple pieces and create depth for our team. You have a solid flex position on top of a starting position that came out. Yes, you traded away arguably RB 3 or above, but the point differential in both of those, creating longevity for your team, I think is the smart decision going forward. I don't want to say that George Pickens is at that level yet. I think the potential is there for him to. He's a puppy right now, but he's growing quickly. Not only to the league, but in our hearts. I think he could be getting to dog status here eventually. So I'm excited to see what he can do this season. This will be the make or break for me looking on to say, all right, he's for real.
He scored 208 points last year, had 63 receptions on 106 targets, 1,140 yards, 10.75 yards per target, and 18.1 yards per catch, 5 touchdowns.
We love that.
I think that's he had 3 fumbles. That's the problem, but hopefully we get those numbers down. And as far as that 2025 first, even if it's a late first, I really am excited about the rookie class next year.
Absolutely.
I'm always looking forward to the rookie class. There's diamonds in the rough everywhere. So
some people
if I can get a first,
some people love the draft. Some people love the season, but we're in it for dynasty for a reason. We like to play every aspect of this game.
All that shit.
Absolutely. But we're going to go ahead and wrap up here. Here's what I want everyone that is watching to do right now. I want you to go ahead in these comments. I want you to throw in the craziest trade that you either made this offseason or that you saw in your league this offseason. It could be good, bad, indifferent. It could be a trade that you thought was super lopsided but went through. It could be a trade that you made that you thought, made your team so much better. Or maybe it's a trade that you made that you immediately regret, like giving away Jahmyr Gibbs. You know what I mean? On top of that, right, craziness. That's a D-I-W-G dog that you traded away. But what I want is for you guys to go ahead and comment that down there, so in our next Take It to the Table, we can talk about some of those things going forward.
You leave a comment, you come join us at the table, and we can break it down for you.
Absolutely, I love that. Aside from that, JJ, you have any closing remarks for these fine ladies and gentlemen watching on?
Had a wonderful time. Thank you for listening. Can't wait till next time.
Absolutely, we love y'all. Love all our bozos, average fantasy players. We appreciate y'all. Like and subscribe. We out.
Bye.